Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 169 of Stand Up. My very special guest today is actress, comedian, talk show host, musician, the great Marie Lynch. It's time to stand up with me right now. Well, hello, and welcome to the show. Where do you listen? How do you listen? I love that so many of you have responded to that question this week. I asked once, I think last week, and my friend Joe, longtime listener Joe Liotta, sent me a picture of where and how he listens. He's outside on his patio with his breakfast and his laptop there. And he texted me this morning. He says, have you sat back and realized the impact that you've had on listeners? You are included on the daily routines of so many. Good on you and good for us. Joe, I don't sit back, I guess. I just keep trying to move ahead, but that is a very thoughtful thing to say. And I am super honored, inspired, and motivated to put this podcast out every day because I know so many of you listen to it almost every day. So thank you very much. If you haven't reached out to me to let me know that you do and where you and how you listen to, it's great for me to understand that. And thank you for taking me along with you. Really enjoying it every day, and a lot to say here at the opening. But first of all, as always, I want to thank all the new subscribers. Several new people signing up just today. Wow. Hello, Gail Harriman. Welcome to the stand-up community. $5 subscription from Gail. Matt Jackson signed up today for a $5 subscription. Seth Alexander just became a $5 patron. Corey Wilson became a $10 subscriber. And my friend Warren McReady, he just edited his pledge from $5 to $10, something you can always do. Thank you, Gail, Matt, Seth, Corey, Warren. You guys are awesome. Keep it coming. Sign up for a paid subscription. Go to the paid subscription link in the show notes or patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Could not do this independent media without your support. And here I am in the Shedio, the DFAB, because Nick DiFabrizio, longtime listener, helped me make it. And today I got the carpet in. I bought an office chair. The couch came in the mail. And I'm here Thursday night. You're going to get to see all of it if you are a member of the stand-up community with a paid subscription. I hope to see you on Thursday night. The link for listeners to join me in the hangout is in the Patreon post for today's show and the last couple of days' shows as well. You are going to get a tour of all 72 square feet of the brand new Shedio. I'll show you the outside, the inside, and very, very excited to have you joining me tomorrow night at the Zoom hangout if you're listening on Wednesday, the 19th. And speaking of Wednesday, the 19th, let me catch you up a little on the news. It is day 1308, 1,308 days of our long national nightmare, 76 days until the presidential election, and it's anybody's guess what will happen between now and then, and of course, after then. I saw this tweet from Christopher Keelty at KeelTYC says, I have a plan to save the post office. Young people, call your grandparents and ask if they got the card you sent. Important, do not send a card. When they say no, you sound very sad. Say, that's too bad. I heard that Trump was really underfunding the post office. I love that idea, and I wanted to share it with you. So give that one a shot. Yeah, I love it. Also, the DNC has kicked off. I didn't have high hopes for this. I didn't really know what to expect. I haven't been paying that much attention to the run-up to it, but, it was real good. It was real good, and why wouldn't it be? It's a big production. It's an entertaining infomercial with all the big stars of the Democratic Party and giving really passionate, thoughtful speeches. Michelle Obama and Bernie Sanders knocked it out of the park. It was an awesome and emotional night. Very well done, I gotta say. A unified Democratic Party is a damn powerful thing, and we're going to need all that unity. So I'd love to get your reaction. Are you paying attention? Are you watching the DNC? Are you watching the speeches? The other thing is, people don't drone on in these speeches. It's less awkward, especially with the taped ones when they're pre-produced, and even the live ones seem to be going pretty flawlessly, although I haven't seen all of the last two nights. I usually tape the podcast around this time, at least the opening that I do now. try to get in the whole day's worth of news. But I think it's a great idea. I'm eager to see how the RNC is going to do it. And by the way, is Melania Trump, how is she going to do? She hates her husband, won't even hold his hand. Is she going to make a speech on his behalf? That should be great. She's just going to copy Michelle Obama's speech again. Anyway, I think it's pretty impressive and great. And it's better than the traditional DNC, I think, because you don't have Bill Clinton droning on forever, long over his time. And a number of other people that you've never heard of. And there's a bunch of people in the room that aren't paying attention. It's a nightmare, those conventions in the past. And this is a production. I think it's pretty good. That's what I think. A lot of feedback on yesterday's show. Everybody loved Joe the Mailman. John Avlon and Barry Ritholtz were all on episode 168. Teresa said, Joe the Mailman was fantastic. Listener named Joe was also a mailman. I reached out to him. We had a great conversation. She said, great interview. Wonderful show all around, Pete. I always love hearing John Avlon and Barry Ritholtz at all. I'm really, really loving the show. Well done. Thank you, Teresa. My friend Steve emailed saying, I want a cage match, separate cages, with Postal Joe and Joe the Plumber. And Joe just made me feel good, Joe the Mailman. Can you make sure to address the Senate final Russia report that confirms everything Mueller said and shed it, Steve said, because I'm in the shedio. Yeah, big story from the Senate Intel Committee, which dropped its long-awaited Volume 5 report on the Russian attacks on our democracy and found that Paul Manafort was working with a Russian intelligence agent. It found that Roger Stone drafted pro-Russian tweets at Trump's request. It found that Trump used Stone to get inside information on WikiLeaks. It found that Don Jr. knowingly went after dirt on Hillary from people with connections to the Russian government. It found that Putin almost certainly knew that Trump was trying to build a tower in Moscow. And I mean, I don't know, is that collusion? Looks like collusion to me. Looks like treason to me. American people decided that they didn't really care. And they decided that early on. And the political press didn't do a really good job covering it, in my opinion. But Adam Parkhamenko, in his daily newsletter, which I think is great, called Today's Big Stuff, said, it is nothing less than a shocking betrayal of our nation, and that so few seem to care should be a grave concern of all of us. But at least he's learned his lesson. Oh, wait, he was retweeting Kremlin disinformation attacks on Biden just yesterday. So, yeah, that's a big story. I'm going to probably get a guest on that to help us understand that. So thank you for that email, Steve. And I'm glad you mentioned the Senate Intel report. Also, who else did I email? Matt Price said, Pete, I've been one of your Patreon members for a while. I thought about upping my other contribution. But since you mentioned you're trying to get to 3,000 members, I decided it might be a better idea to create a new account and thus add to your patron numbers with my other email address. Anyway, I hope this isn't an asinine idea and it helps in reaching your goals. Then I'm all in. Matt, thank you. That's very thoughtful. I don't know that it matters. You know, it's still the same money, and I guess it's good to add the numbers. It looks good, the optics, but I haven't really thought that much about it. I mean, the goal is 3,000. I'm 12 away, 12 or 8 now. I can't keep track, from 700, which is so exciting. Lately, the paid subscriptions have been rolling in. It's only $5, and it helps me do this work every day. I was listening to this ABC News podcast that I listen to a lot, Start Here, and I think of all the resources that they have available to them, and I'm like, you know what? I do a better job. I can do just as good a job. I get all those same guests and better guests, deep, thoughtful conversations with these folks, and I'm really psyched to be doing it. So I can't do it, obviously, without your support, and I'm going to shut up now and get to my guest, Jane Lynch, but I appreciate that, Matt. It's very thoughtful. And yeah, I mean, whatever you want to do, man. If you want to up the subscription or come out with a separate one, the best thing everybody can do now is tell their friends to listen to the show, and hopefully they'll be interested in it and want to subscribe as well and be a part of our community, which is the next step. Really excited to share with you all the capabilities. I'm going to ramp up the video. I pulled the trigger and bought a $3,000 laptop today. That was a brutal hit. That's a lot of money for a computer, but I got to have it to be able to do the live video. I told you when this project started, I wanted to get to daily. I did that when the pandemic started. It's been very hard to do this show every day, but I'm doing it. It's getting more efficient all the time, but I've been doing it on a MacBook Air, which has never been good enough. So I've got a new computer coming in a couple weeks, I guess. It's going to be here, and I'm going to have a lot more capabilities to do the next thing, which is live. I want to start doing at least once a week a live show. I want to take callers on that show. I want to interview more guests at the same time and have panels. All kinds of really cool things I want to do and build with you and the stand-up community. If you've got ideas on how to build that, what platforms to use, email me with the subject stand-up community, and we'll work on it together. So that's it. That's the show opening, and I'm very excited. I've got only one guest today, but boy, is it a good one. Jane Lynch is a superstar. She is always great in the interview. She's thoughtful. She's inspiring. She's honest. She's real. She's authentic. And we had a great conversation. I really loved this talk. I learned a lot from her, and it was hilarious and thought-provoking. She, of course, she's a big star. You probably know her from Glee, but you might know her from the Christopher Guest movies. You might know her from Judd Apatow movies. You might know her from the game shows that she's hosted or her own albums. Anyway, I'll link to her Christmas album in here, which we talk about, and everything else that she's doing. Here now. Oh, by the way, it was almost a perfect day because I got the studio going, and I was feeling really good about getting the carpet in, the couch in, and getting this thing souped up, and it's getting closer and closer to kind of being done. But the only problem with today was I didn't record the video of our Zoom chat with Jane Lynch. I was so mad, so frustrated. But, I got the audio, but I really wanted to post the video as well. And it's always better to have video along with it. But I screwed that up. So my bad, no video. But I do have the audio. Thank God I pressed record on the conversation because I think it's a really good one. And I hope you do too. Here it is now, the great Jane Lynch. My sound in here is still not ready, but go ahead. What else?
You sound really good. And you sounded pretty good in your podcast too.
I appreciate you listening to it. What a big deal. How would you say I look though?
Oh, you look fantastic. I told you what I think about your teeth. That was the first thing I said to you, I think, way back when.
But it's
about your teeth. And now I want to talk about your skin, but I want it to be on the podcast. I don't want to waste.
Well, I've been recording since we started.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually just edit off the top. So I'm going to start right there.
Oh, good. Okay.
But I'm very, very happy to have you on the podcast. What a big deal it is to be talking to Jane Lynch. I always loved our conversations at SiriusXM, and you worry that some of the big name celebrities that came through there wouldn't necessarily do your next project, your podcast adventure. But not the case. So many amazing people have joined me here, and I you're one of the handful of celebrities, I'll say, that I thoroughly enjoyed. Like, I felt like I learned and grew from our conversation. So I'm so happy to be talking to you.
Me too. Thank you. I always felt that way too. When you do that Sirius radio tour and you go from show to show. And, I always enjoyed talking to you because it would be a wide berth in terms of, what we would talk about and not talk about. So it was.
So let's just open with some improv. And for folks who don't know the rules of improv, the deal is Jane has to say yes to whatever I say.
Whatever.
So I was really inspired by when Sirius ended my channel and my contract with it, that you threatened to burn the place down. Thank you, Jane. I mean, there were so many other opportunities for you, so many other shows that loved having you on, and yet you stood with me. Thank you.
Indeed. I thought it was a great injustice, but I also knew at the same time, the other half of me knew that it would be the greatest opportunity for you, and it certainly has been.
Oh.
And you've taken it up a notch. You're level 5 now. You're at level 3.5, and you keep getting better and better.
And the other question I really want to ask you in the improv that, of course, you have to say yes on is, I'm so surprised to see you out there removing mailboxes yourself. Why? Why are you behind all of this, Jane Lynch?
Well, I think that if you go the route and you do the opposite of what people expect you to do,
right,
call attention to it in a new way, and then people want to cancel me, and it becomes all about canceling me. And then, without people looking, I have a key, and I'm unlocking those mailboxes because I don't want to be canceled. So I'm going to, So anyway, that's the psychology.
Well done.
Fucked up as that is, and I can't say fucked up now, can't I?
Anything you want. So. What about that? Have you gotten, I don't want to say you've said controversial things or gotten into hot water. I mean, who amongst us haven't? I feel like it's just amplified the bigger you are, and you have 1.8 million followers on Twitter. And so when you tweet, lots of people see it.
And of course, you've got a major profile. And so there's any number of reasons to try to knock Jane Lynch down. But is that a thing that you concern yourself too much with about what you might say that could be considered offensive, upsetting, that would hurt you?
Yeah, well, I trended once, and I got attacked by the Bernie Bros. I said something about the wine caves that Elizabeth Warren at the time was, and it was a pretty badly worded tweet on my part too. But I was hopped up on caffeine and it was like my 15th tweet of that hour, and it kind of very much taught me a lesson that I do have a big platform, and I do have to not so much be careful, but I better mean it and I better word it really well. It's not like, when my partner tweets, who's reading her tweets? Me. And then I'll say, hey, honey, great tweet.
You just yell to the other room. Yeah, that's how you amplify her tweet.
Excellent tweets.
So you've just put more, but do you worry though about, has anything damaged your career, which I want to talk about in terms of, just how adaptable you've been throughout your career and how you've pretty much done everything. And I want to talk about how the entertainment business is doing right now through the pandemic. But has anything in any way damaged you, do you think, in terms of a potential role or?
Not that I know of. Of course, early on, if there was a reason for me not getting a role, it had nothing to do with what I said publicly. But yeah, I don't think about that. I never have.
Right.
Now I do with the cancel culture. I do get concerned, and there's a worry in the back of my mind when I retweet something. And that does worry me. I think we're babies, as human beings, we can be extreme and immature and unavailable to nuance. And, that's just kind of a given. So I rarely read replies. Every once in a while I read a reply, especially when I tweet something that's funny and people yes and me, which is another comedy term. And you go down the replies and I'm just busting a gut because it's so funny.
I wonder what it's like to have almost 2 million followers, what the replies look like, even with the most mundane of tweets. But I also think that you do have to, you think a lot about the kind of causes that you want to support as well, because when you have a huge following like that, you can really signal boost an important cause, quote, comment, whatever you want. And your Twitter feed is, I think, curated in a great way. Curated? Is it curated? Is it too much?
I love that word, and I'll take it.
All right, because you've got, your activism and your passions, you've got your jokes, you've got your inspirations. Obviously, you retweet some really great things, but what is it like to see those replies? I mean, is it like hundreds of thousands every time you tweet anything? Could you just tweet right now, like a sentence fragment? What would happen?
Well, here's the deal. My 1.8 million followers happened when I was on Glee. So I really don't know how much people are, in the scheme of things. Like I look at somebody like, say, Andy Richter. I don't know how many he has. Let's say like
Richter.
Michael Ian Black. I love.
I do too.
Richter. I love Michael Ian Black. I love
both of them. I've talked with both of them several times. Great guys. Go ahead. Either one of them. And
I look at their tweet, the number of retweets they get and the number of replies they get, and it's much more than I get. So I don't know. And of course, advertisers, plug your ears, because if you want to hire me, because I have 1.8 million followers. But I think I don't know that people are reading my tweets as much as they're reading other people's
Have you
tweets.
taken endorsement? Have you done any promoted in whatever they are tweets when you get that big a following? All kinds of
Yes, I have. I can't think of one right now, probably because I'm ashamed. But I have, absolutely. I have.
I have it here. It's big guns, big oil, and a lot of anti-gay stuff from the event. Well, that's surprising. Wow, what a sellout.
It's thinly veiled, though. Thinly veiled.
So, yeah, I mean, I wanted to talk with you about your career, because I think there's something really important about your career. And I don't say this as much to flatter you as to say that I'm impressed with the kind of utility player of an artist you have always been. I mean, you are big in so many different arenas and respected in like the Chicago theater scene where you came up, of course. And you were booking commercials, which any struggling actor knows that's huge. When someone finds out that somebody booked a commercial, it's massive. It's a lot of money. Then they start coming in. And then, of course, You're huge on the comedy movie circuit with Judd Apatow and Christopher Best. And of course, Glee puts you into this kind of realm of fame that very few people ever get. And there's so many other things we can talk about, including game show host stuff, voiceover stuff. You do personal appearances, playing characters you played. You work constantly and consistently your entire career because you're A, multi-talented, B, hardworking, but C, innovative, which leads me to the question, what are you and others doing right now?
With all of those things you just said about me, sometimes I'm sorry, I just turned on my AC because look, I'm sweating, which makes me look like I'm lying. I think that I'm not that busy. I'm really not. Like well, of course now in the pandemic, but even before the pandemic, and I'm kind of a loner. So, I'm out in my little garden shack as well right now. Just turned the AC on. So
awesome.
Yeah. But I love what I do, Pete. I love, like when I'm out and I'm being Jane Lynch in the public and I'm, it's kind of like a character, but not, it's me. And I love it. And I love it. I love talking to people. I love hearing about just, what people want to talk about. And I just love it. I love being a public person. And
that's so great to hear and you're really good at it. I mean, it must get irritating and annoying sometimes, but you're always so down to earth and a great, let me ask you specifically though, because of your role in Glee, and because of your outspoken activism and truth about your own life, what do fans say to you? Because I imagine people come up to you and say the most amazing things about how important your character, that show, your personal private stuff, work, activism has meant to them. You must hear amazing things. What do you hear?
I do. My encounters are rarely trivial. They're usually something very, I think it takes probably something deep within the person to approach somebody they don't know.
Sure.
And it's, about their sister who has Down syndrome, or a Down syndrome kid comes up to me because I had a Down syndrome sister and a protege on Glee. It's about, coming out of the closets. It's about, oh gosh, what else? Just about laughing. Oh, about like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. So many people come up and go, I grew up in New York. I know exactly, in a Jewish family. I know exactly that culture, or that whole stand-up comic thing you do. Maisel, my mother was a big fan of Toady Field. It's like the most obscure kind of, and it's not so much about me as about the world that I inhabit and in television shows and the issues that it brings up. So, like I said, it's casually not trivial. it's always. I
love it. I love the way you're saying it. Casually, it's never trivial. Have you ever become? I bet you everybody is your friend before, or your fan before they meet you. But have you become like friends with people that were started as like fans that you had no idea, but they certainly knew who you are and your body of work? You let people in like that?
You know what? I barely let in the people I let in. And it's not like I'm protected to be there. I'm kind of a loner. And then when I go out in the world, I belong to the world. And when I'm at home, I belong to me. And even, like my partner, she's blessedly the same kind of person as I am in that way. I'm up here, she's down in her room, and we text.
We did too. Yesterday, apparently I came out. I've said this before, but people made a big deal about this. My wife and I don't share a bedroom. Like my stuff is in there, but I don't sleep in there with her. And without going into too much detail, our sex life, I think, is great. I don't know how to compare it against somebody else who's been together with one person for 20 years, but like everybody gets, it's the greatest thing to have different rooms and sleep in different rooms. You guys do as well?
Oh, absolutely.
It's so healthy.
Yeah, it is. I during most of the pandemic thus far, I've been staying up here, and now I'm back in my bedroom, and she's got a room that she sleeps in. It's her bedroom, but it's also her office and her sewing room. And she's also a kind of she's a clutter person, and I'm not at all. I am, I barely have throw pillows anymore because I keep trying to make them perfect. So the less, the better for me.
Let me go back to the entertainment business. As a stand-up comic, the first part of my career exclusively, doing stand-up, I dabbled with. I thought about acting, but I really that whole going through that was too much for me. The auditions and everything was just too difficult. And there was more of a meritocracy, I felt like, with stand-up, in that, and I think to some extent music too, as opposed to acting, where you can be the greatest actor in the world and not necessarily get a lot of work. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. I think if you're a bad stand-up, you do not go very far.
Right.
And if you're a bad piccolo player, you don't go very far in the piccolo business. I think that I heard a story once about Bill Murray working with a well-known actress, and I won't say who it is, but he was improvising, and she said to the director, well, why can't I improvise? And he said, because I'm an actor and you won the lottery.
That's awesome.
Not awesome. Yeah, I think you can in acting. You can have the right look. You could, they can cut around the fact that you can't act.
Right.
You can do that. You get a good editor and a director to feed you the exact right line reading, and you have the right look. Then it'll work, and you become a big star. Maybe.
All that being said, whatever your art is, we're all trying to figure it out right now. And I wonder, how you're doing, but I actually kind of wonder more about how everybody's doing. People who aren't certainly as successful as you. Yeah, I know that I don't know what you think, but I imagine you think you'll probably always work. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have some insecurity, but I once heard you in an interview say something about, I can always go back and produce a live version of Gypsy. Like, you have this fallback idea, and you have so many different talents, from singing to hosting. You could do private functions. I would imagine you're not too worried, but I don't know, maybe you are. But how do you see the entertainment business right now? Because it seems to have come to a screeching halt in terms specifically to television and film, and obviously to music and comedy to some extent too. How do you see what's happening? Live theater, of course.
Yeah, I think that television and film will come back first, because they will figure out the protocols. They've got the money. They can test everybody every day. And you keep the grips with the grips. You keep camera department with the camera department. You keep the actors with the actors. And they can do it. I hear they're doing it already. I'm doing The Weakest Link. I'm going to host it. And it's a game show with no audience. And it's relatively... That's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Logistically, it's difficult, but it's not half as difficult as doing a television show. But I think the thing that's going to suffer for quite some time, and I don't know how long, is live theater. I think music and live theater, the ballet, any place that the symphony, any place that you gather hundreds and thousands of people indoors is going to suffer. I tour with Kate Flannery and a 5-piece band, and we've had to tour, and I know this is the same for all acts, including stand-ups. We had to tour or take our tour and cancel it and reschedule for next year. And I don't have any hope that we'll be able to do it next year. I don't know how it's going to, I think the risk and the liability is too high.
I just did stand up outside last weekend.
I saw that. Yeah. I don't know if you read my tweet, but I complimented you on your shorts. You said, and I look great. And I said, I loved your shorts.
First time I ever wore shorts on stage, and I'm insecure about my legs. So I had some concern, but I feel like the main insecurity is that they don't grow hair. My lower leg does not grow hair on it. And when people get up close to me, they say very mean things about my bald calves. And they usually insinuate that there's some kind of, testosterone missing or something. And it hurts, Jane.
Well, point them to your fucking beard. Say, no deficiency here.
That's not a bad idea. I don't know how I've never thought about that. But then they go off on my bald head. Anyway, it's a real train wreck. But yeah, so getting back to, the options. I mean, how do we ever get back to live performance with a live studio audience? You're talking about hosting a game show. Often these types of shows. What was the one I prepped, and I can't remember all of the things you've done that you hosted that did have a live studio audience, right? Yeah.
Live, not only the studio audience, but we are all over each other. We're playing physical games.
Right.
And, there's no way we can do that now. We actually did a quarantine version where all of the celebrities were in their own homes.
How'd it go?
And, that was fun. But we can't do the game as it was conceived at all. There's no way.
How are people doing in your business? And you live in Southern California?
I do.
I mean, how has it changed? How are you dealing with it is the most fascinating question for anybody, but especially for someone like you with a career like yours, obviously in an industry like yours, living in Southern California.
Well, for me, it has not been hard. It's just, being conscious and not, staying healthy and not getting sick or getting anybody else sick. But I have friends who have no job.
Yeah.
They have no job and they have no income and they can't pay their mortgage. And, when this mortgage extension and no eviction thing goes away, I don't know what a lot of people are going to do. I think there's going to be a lot of hurt. We're in for a world of hurt.
Why have you stayed friends with people who struggle financially when you've been so successful in your career? Why would you even spend time with people who don't have the material type of things that you have? Like if someone doesn't have I assume you have a pool with a waterfall. That's Well, maybe I should go.
Yeah, no, I have 3 friends and I've had them for 25, 30 years and they're still in and I'm still in with them. But, I don't expand and not purposely. I just don't want to. I don't expand that kind of that intimate level of friendship. It's been where it's been for the last 30 years. And I'm not someone that'll say, hey, let's get coffee. And I don't want to. I really don't. I used to do it out of obligation, but I don't anymore. I'll go with the 3 people I hang out with. But I'm not someone like, hey, you want to catch dinner sometime? And I'm not the person. So don't ask me.
Are you open to someone breaking into that circle? Or is that like a conscious choice? I think you said it wasn't.
If somebody comes in and blows me away with their light and how evolved they are, I absolutely.
Well, who do you like to spend time with? Like, tell me about these people, because I think that you're a very deep, thoughtful, I want to say spiritual person. I know you're not
Go ahead, say it.
I think you're a spiritual person.
Mm-hmm. I think I am too.
What do you what do these people bring to your life? I like to surround myself. Part of this show has always been bringing on guests who are much better than me in so many different ways, and then learning from them and becoming a sponge to their knowledge, their information, their life's choices. You're definitely one of those people. I mean, your hair alone is something I aspire to. But what are the character qualities that you look to in these people and are you also inspired? Do you like being around them because they make you a better person?
The one I'm thinking of, my friend Laura, who has been my friend for probably 30 years, really close. And we'll go through periods where I don't see her for like 6 months, but it's not because I don't love her and she doesn't love me. But no one makes me laugh harder.
Yeah.
And she's also the most magnanimous, kind, open-hearted person. She is guileless. She's guileless. She never, like in her mind, has resentment against anybody. She doesn't like build cases against people. You know how you're like with a friend and you hear them building a case and you would suggest that maybe you're building a case against this person. We don't even have to go there. And she's the most forgiving, wonderful person. And at the same time, she's like a bull in a china shop. She's loud. She's forceful. She still gives me noogies like we're 14 years old. I know. And I love it. I giggle like a little schoolgirl. So she's a wonderful person. And, we did a fast together a couple of weeks ago where she stayed in my bedroom and I stayed in the guest house. We did it for a week. We did a fast together. We got to have this soup. We did this thing called the longevity fast, and they give you this soup and they give you like 7 almonds, and we're counting out our almonds. But we did it together. We supported each other and lived together for a week.
That's a fascinating experiment. Why did you do that? And how do you feel? How did you come out of it? Like, what is?
Well, we always feel fat. We always feel unhealthy, even when we were thin and young and healthy. So this is kind of our thing. Well, like, what's the next thing? I'm doing this. I cut out carbs. Oh, really? Well, I'm just eating meat. And so anyway, we decided to do this thing. She found this guy on the internet. His name is Walter Longo, and he's Italian, and he does a longevity diet. He's a research scientist. And so we did this 5-day thing where he gives you the soups, and he tells you it's 1,100 calories the first day, then the next 4 days are 700 calories. And we lost about 6 pounds. I'm sure we both put it back on. But it's supposed to just like clean out your cells. It's called autophagy, I think is the term. And, you need to do that from time to time. And there's a great effect from this we're going to do it for 3 times, once a month for the next 3 months. And it says that it really can turn your your body around.
It sounds punishing to me. I think I would be miserable. And if I was doing it with a friend, maybe it would be easier to kind of commiserate with somebody, but I think I wouldn't be.
Yeah, it was miserable and it was easy with a friend. And we both felt really good. We got kind of high, when you fast and you get high.
I don't, but I get high, and it's the only thing I can relate to because I didn't smoke pot for like 5 days last week, and it was really interesting. And then I went back to it. But
what did you find in those 5 days? Anything to remark on?
I found out why I like to smoke pot when I like to smoke pot, because I wish I had that, because I'm a one puff Johnny, and I do it to take both for a little bit for anxiety, although I'm pretty good with that now, but more for focus. So I do it when I'm like out doing lawn work and stuff, or like building this shed if I'm not using power saws. But like one puff, like no one would know the difference between me and not that puff. But I found out when I want it, maybe kind of why I want it. But I do feel that I'm 44 and smoking even just like one puff, it just doesn't seem like a great idea. But it was hard for me. It was a little hard. But eating I don't eat very much.
Yeah, I can tell you're
very small.
You're all muscle.
Very small, sinewy.
Muscle.
So how do we get down that one? Going down what you look for in a person. No, that was great. You also used the word guileless, which I've never used. And I looked it up while you were telling me about it. And what a compliment that would be to have your character described that way, devoid of guile, innocent and without deception. What a kind thing to say about your friend.
She's just right there, and she doesn't hide anything. And everything is out in the open, and she's also she's just the funniest person in the world. She's really, really hilarious and loud, and will do anything to make me laugh. We're both big fans of Absolutely Fabulous. We just killed that show together. And once we were in a Sears and it was 110 degrees outside, and there's an episode, the Morocco episode, where the girls leave the airport and it's so hot. They say, "Oh, we're fine. We know this weather. We're used to this weather." They walk out and they both collapse. So I'm waiting in line at Sears, and she went, "Jane." And she walks through the doors, and it was like steam was coming off the pavement, and she collapsed onto the ground for me, for my pleasure.
Oh, I wish there were a video of that, of you guys doing all of those funny pranks. That the humor that you develop with your closest friends is the best kind of humor, especially when there's something to reference like that. So you also are a person, though, who has overcome her share of adversity. And then even if you had, I don't know, been a privileged person in life in all the ways we think about it, you still decided to go into the crazy business of entertainment, specifically, acting, music, comedy, which is really hard to make a living at. But you look at your life and you don't see yourself ever seemingly as a victim. I think your mentality about how you've guided your way through the adversity you've overcome is inspiring, and it's good role modeling. I'm not going to look at somebody who hasn't had these advantages and feels like a victim and say you're wrong. But I would say to them, look at what someone like Jane has done. Talk to me about that theory of the way that you've lived your life.
Well, this is also just my nature. So it's not anything I have, it's like a blessing that I'm not a grievance person. I don't do that. I especially in the older days, I'll blame myself for everything, but I don't project my grievance outside. And I think that's a terrible way to live. And I see that in a lot of people. I see it in our society, and you see it especially on Twitter. That you open yourself up as a successful person who just being one of the people, on Twitter, and someone will say, "Oh yeah, sure, because you've got a lot of money," or something like that. And I think, how horrible for them. I don't care that they say it. I don't feel badly about it. I'm so agnostic about how much money somebody has and how much quote unquote success they have. And I've kind of always been that way. And I think it's, short of being guileless, which I'm not, it's a great way to live, is to, not have this grievance and we so encourage it in our society, especially with this president going, those people, he even said, those people hate your guts. It's how he sees the world.
I think those people is generally a phrase that should be avoided by all of us. It usually doesn't end well.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Well, That's a fascinating theory, a way to live your life. But you also belong to two categories that you could file a grievance. You're a lady. You're a gay person. And I don't know if being tall is an advantage or disadvantage, being a tall woman or not, maybe in the entertainment business. But how do you, and you've also been an activist, especially in the LGBT community. A lot of people see you as a role model. Do you criticize the kind of feminist movement or the LGBT equality movement for behaving with, or for thinking of grievances or acting like victims? I'm not asking the question well. Do you criticize those movements and some of the tactics they take?
I would never broadly criticize anything because there's so many exceptions to
those people.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there is a piling on of and an encouragement of you're not getting what you deserve. And certainly that might be true, but because it's, there's injustice all over the place, but coming from a place of such toxicity as, it's your fault. And I think you got to fight the battles and keep the piling on like that. I think it's also responsible for the cancel culture too. Is like everybody will decide, like who was it? Sammy, what's his name? Old guitarist.
Sammy Hagar.
Yes.
I can't believe I just got a musical reference right. You don't know this about me, but I'm the worst. I feel, especially to you. Oh, that was amazing triumph and worth the, wow.
It should have been on the tip of my tongue, but for a while there, and I don't mean to bring this up again. Sorry, Sammy Hagar. But I tweeted, are we canceling Sammy Hagar? I'm just wondering.
What did he do or say or whatever?
He said something about, he said something about, the old people dying and we need to sacrifice them anyway. That whole thing. But he said something like that. You know what? Who cares? Who cares? We say, not that even that's a stupid thing to say. In my mind, I've had thoughts like that too. Like, well, maybe it's the nature saying to hell with you people. Let me knock some vulnerable people off.
Oh, I've had thoughts. I've had much worse thoughts. I've had thoughts where I say to myself, Thanos may have had a point.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanos, was he the villain?
I know the whole can thing, holding the cans. Yeah, exactly. You're talking about Scientology, right?
No, I'm talking about the Avengers, Thanos.
Oh, okay. And then, what else I was thinking too was that woman who did the blood thing and that she was going to save the world with one blood test. And I forget what that was called.
I understand what you're saying about all of that, but do you feel like, I feel like I might be on the side of the cancel culture argument that we need a better phrase because we're all using it differently. Can you give an example of where you saw somebody, quote, got canceled or lost something that they shouldn't have lost, that they didn't deserve to lose? Like, I'll look at it a lot of times. I don't know if this is cancel culture, but I'll look at a police officer doing something in a video and be like, that guy should be fired and never hired as a cop again. Is that cancel culture? I don't think so, but
no, that's not. You look at an individual doing a cruel, horrible thing that's beyond what his job is.
Or that lady in Central Park who, went after the white woman with the black bird watcher. Like, I'm not sure that she deserved the kind of vengeance that she got. Even the guy, Christian Cooper, I don't think thought that necessarily. No. But are you talking about like celebrities? Like, what do you mean? What's an example, I guess, maybe? You mentioned.
Oh, God. And you know what? To bring something like that up means that I'm going to have to weigh on either side of it because I don't know anybody's circumstance. And I don't know the circumstances of why we're canceling. And none of us do. None of us know the particulars of it. So I really don't want to bring up an example because then I'll have to opine on it and I don't want to do that. Because I wasn't there when they supposedly did this horrible thing. But because we're so, we know people so intimately via social media these days where we didn't know celebrities that well.
Right.
And also we're all opining on, I don't like the way Game of Thrones ended or something like that. Well, then write your own fucking Game of Thrones. This whole kind of opining on works of art and how somebody lives their life. It's just, we've become just too faux intimate. We have too little information about each other. And we also have said, you're an individual and your opinion matters. And well, you know what? It doesn't when it comes to like how you end Game of Thrones, and no, the producers shouldn't have to listen to you.
How do you feel? Where are you on Da Vinci being canceled? What did he do again? Did he have like a man boy or something like that? I forget. But like, it seems like everybody, especially in the past, especially men, did horrific things, like all the greatest artists.
George Washington too, and Thomas Jefferson, and
who is it? I'll put you on the spot. I've got my example. I'll give you a second to think about. Who would you be most upset to find out was a monster? Mine is Fred Rogers.
Oh, me too. Absolutely. You know, that's going to happen someday.
No, it's not. How dare you?
Okay. You know what? I when I think about Fred Rogers too, I wonder because, you know, he had such an effeminate quality.
Yes.
People would have been calling him a pedophile today.
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Anybody that works with kids, especially a man.
Yeah.
Is a pedophile. Do you have anybody else that you would be like, oh my God, that person seemed like the greatest person, living or dead?
No.
It's a hard one to come up with. I've just thought about it a lot.
But I have seen some, you know, I rented a house in Vermont one summer, and there was a book in the bookcase, and it said Aristotle's blah, blah, blah. And I don't know anything about these philosophers. So I opened it up, and he was rhapsodizing about a young man and his thighs and how all the other guys in the philosophy group are like, he's mine. They loved their boys.
Oh my gosh.
And it was right out there in the fine youth with the full lips and the very muscular thighs, and you know, oh, I'd love to see what's under that toga.
What's that book again? Asking for my buddy of mine. Let me just. Well, that's an interesting one. By the way, it just made me think of when you do rent a place, whether it's Airbnb or you rent a house. I always, if they have books, or if I go to somebody's house, I will stand in front of their books. And I'm going to decorate my new studio like my old studio in all the books that I've gotten over the years doing this show. And then I'll stand there in front of and I'll wonder about the homeowner, and I'll read some of their books, and I'll decide everything about that person, by the way. Yes. But let me ask you, how about this? Name a person to make that still interesting, but still you have to answer the question that you wouldn't want to see canceled. Name someone that everybody will know that you just adore. Like, who is a celebrity that you've worked with that you just think is the bee's knees? Because I think that about you. A lot of people think that about you. Who is somebody that you've worked with that you just think is fantastic, that you'd hate to hear?
Cyndi Lauper.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I haven't worked with her as much as we're pitching a show. We pitched a show together.
Oh, cool.
And got it. So hopefully someday we'll get to do it. And she is just a genuine article. And so she's exactly as he would think. She's a little like this, you know, she's got an opinion on everything, but it's all heartfelt and informed. And she has this thing that rock stars have. And I don't know if you've noticed this, but I know Melissa Etheridge pretty well. I've hung out with Steven Tyler. I'm going to name drop like crazy here.
Oh, yeah, please. It's fascinating to me.
Can't think of anybody else.
Kevin Costner taught me to fly fish.
Oh, there you go. There you go. But there's a thing about rock stars. They've got a confidence. Boy, if you could bottle it. They know that when they open their mouth, everybody goes.
Do you think that's different than comedians?
Well, you know what? I watched the Joe Rogan podcast, and I think Joe Rogan has it too. It's absolute confidence in themselves, but not in a dick way, and not in a listen to me, I know better. And there's a humility in it, but there's such a self-confidence that if we all had, and I think that's why Joe Rogan's podcast is so popular. You know, go ahead and try to cancel him. You know, he'll say something, and I'll go, "Oh my God, that is just." You know, that's sexist. And I don't know. No, it's not, because it's coming from Joe. And I think,
by the way, he's a great example. I'm glad you brought him up. I know Joe. And when I lost my gig at Sirius and told him I was launching a podcast, and I also told him I was thinking about running for Congress, I was like, I'd love to come do the show. He immediately got back to me, and he had me on his massive show as I'm launching my podcast, which is I'll never, forget him for that, and I'll always appreciate him for that. But when there are things that he says that I think are very sexist and very racist. But the thing is, he is a very complex person, as are you, as are I. And so when you look at the whole body of someone's work and don't water it or distill it down to one comment, Joe is a very curious guy. There's a lot of guests I wish you wouldn't have on, but he's asking so many people different types of questions. And I think that's a very important kind of way to critically think. And I appreciate that about him. Also, by the way, that guy quietly, as I bet you do too, and would never talk about it, very supportive of a lot of people financially and in any number of ways, including the way I just mentioned, where he had me on his show. He's helped out a lot of comedians. But yeah, he's a good example of, you're talking about musicians that have that power and comedians
Yeah.
that have that confidence as well. That's a fascinating conversation to have about people, for sure.
It is. Yeah. It attracts me to them. And you say what attracts me, not necessarily that I want to go have coffee with Joe Rogan, but I will go down the rabbit hole with his podcasts, and I will now watch the one with you.
No, don't. It's horrible.
Oh, I'm sure.
It was weird. We talked for 3 hours, and I smoked pot. I never should have done that. And I got all paranoid. We argued a lot, and I got death threats for, not quite death threats, but for a while, because we argued about guns. It was good, but it was long, and I got a lot of hate after that. But bring it. It helped me.
I'm sure that he gets a lot of hate too, but he doesn't read it, from what I understand.
Oh, I read it all. Every goddamn comment, you name it.
That might be the thing. Maybe that's the new thing you do with your new studio and everything, is you don't read the comments anymore, and you just say what you say. And
I mean, it's easier to do when it's you or Joe Rogan and there's millions of them. You still probably read a few. Like I don't have millions, so I get them all. But it's mostly not. It's also great to be, I'll say, it's great to be a guy, because all the threats that come against me and the criticisms are, you're not funny is the one they think is most hurtful. You're not relevant. And, people say, kill yourself. But not one person threatened me sexually. Not one.
Well, that's a drag. Me neither. I've never been asked to do porno, and I'm kind of, if I have a grievance.
Well, you've done everything. I mean, look at your career: music, comedy, game shows, hosting. Why not porn? Why not give it a shot?
Oh my God, Lord in heaven above.
It would be huge. How much money would?
I'm sure it would be huge.
You just start the show with, listen, we're all desperate. Okay, COVID has put us all out of business, but we could still do this.
Yeah, well, you can, because you'd look very attractive, even in spite of your hairless calves.
And I'm available, folks. Let me just name your price. What is it, by the way, that you haven't done? You have done everything in this industry, it would seem. What do you like the most? What have you not done? Is there anybody that you'd really like to work with?
Not in particular, no. But I really enjoy doing the live shows, the music. That's been a real blast and a real blessing. And I'm surrounded by great people. I love doing theater. I wouldn't mind doing a run on a Broadway show again. And I think I'd want to do Broadway. I don't know that I'd do anything lesser. If I'm going to do it, I want to do it big, and I want to invest in it. And I want it to be something big.
Think of all the young actors who you could inspire at the Cleveland Rep.
Yeah.
You'd have to live in Cleveland for 6 months,
right. And I understand Cleveland isn't that bad from what, theatrically. It has a very vibrant Midwestern theater town, from what I understand.
Well, you would know. You spent a lot of time in Chicago out there, right? So let me ask you, though, about the world that we're living in. And this is where, I love your Twitter feed. I love your thoughts on things. And I wonder how you're dealing with it. Like, are you, you've got the pandemic, you've got the threat against democracy, this president every day, and of course, all the other issues that are existential that have been around, like climate change and so much change that we see. What are you most concerned about right now with, like, I don't know, the DNC just kicked off. You got like 70 some days before November 3rd. What are you thinking? What are you concerned about?
My biggest concern, and it's, my concern about politics used to be, I hope George Bush isn't reelected. Oh, he is. I am way past that. I would give my left titty to have George Bush be our president right now.
You heard it here. I've got an exclusive.
I'm most concerned about Trump being reelected. And secondly, I'm most concerned with what he's going to do between now and the election. And then that's A. And then B, between the election, if he loses, and January.
Right.
He is a particular personality type that just punches, indignity, institution busting.
Yeah.
And we have no resistance in Congress. The Democrats have been asleep at the wheel from the beginning. They should have been parrying every thrust, and they haven't. And it looks like they're coming back to talk about this post office thing, which they should have done immediately. This is no time for strategery. Unless it's boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a really interesting criticism to unpack. I think, as you said, though, he punches so much, it's hard to know what to react to because you have to get a critical mass of the public behind you to react to those things. And a lot of us, frankly, I don't know, maybe you disagree with this, but I usually blame us, the public, for being asleep more than Congress, because Congress will do what we pressure them to do if we organize and pressure them to do things. A lot of times I do see that. And we've seen a lot of change as a result of that. But they also have a lot of other influences that sometimes, make them do what they do. But
Trump has proven, the Trump White House has proven you do not need critical mass to do whatever the F you want. You just do it. In the beginning, they were kind of like, what if we do this? Now it's like, we're doing it. And I think if the Democrats, I would have been impeaching him every day for every little thing. You have to fight the fight you're in. And the old metaphor, don't bring a butter knife to a gunshot fight. And that's what we've been doing. We have not had an effective resistance. And as we're standing there being all liberal and, oh, no, hold on just a second, the house is burning down.
Let's do more parodies of liberal-minded folks. Well, let's just hold on. Let's just talk about this for a little while.
Yeah, right, exactly.
There's a lot of nuance.
There is. And I'm sure we can have a reasonable conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if you would just, why did you hit me? I hadn't even started speaking yet.
And then the next thing is, well, I can understand why you hit me. I understand why someone might do that.
Well, your father did not acknowledge your existence. Oh, you hit me in the nuts. I was diagnosing your childhood. Smash.
But I can understand why you would want to do that. And I have empathy. And I'm so sorry your brother passed away. God bless you. And
did you tweet anything after
no,
Trump's
I'm not
brother?
tweeting anymore. Everything that I've been holding in, I'm expressing to you in this podcast.
Well, thank you very much. It's been great. You're definitely going to get canceled after doing my piddly show. Can you imagine just cursing me out, just you hanging out with those three friends, never working again? That Pete Dominic motherfucker.
Pete Dominic.
Well, when you look at how do you look at the president and the support he has? Where did you grow up and how do you grow up? How do you understand folks who support Donald Trump? How do you deal with them? Do you try to, as we were just ridiculing, empathy? Do you make an effort to try to understand what they think?
You do subjectively on a psychological level, and but no, not. I forget who said it. Arguing with a learned man is difficult. Arguing with an ignorant man is impossible. So I think what we have is people, and the word grievance comes up again. I think there's great grievance out there. And I think there are several types of people who support him, but I think if there is one unifying principle, it's grievance and greed, grievance and greed.
Do you think the grievance of the Trump supporter that you're talking about is a justified grievance? Do you understand it? Do you not blame?
Sure, I understand it, but you got to grow up.
Well, it's
there are things that have to shift. Like we need equality. We need it, and we're not there yet. But you don't get it by punching the fuck out of each other.
It's consistent to what you're saying about your own categories in life that you belong to. So I think that's important too. You're like, I'm a woman. I'm gay. I'm not going to sit there and let that handicap me. Although I don't think you can say handicap anymore. Now I'm finished.
Probably not.
But I mean, that's the same for the Trump supporter. It's like, and what you just said so perfectly tied it up. I mean, pull your pants up and go out there and stop making excuses for why you're or being worried about somebody else taking your job and all this stuff that you feel like you're losing. And by the way, look at what they've lost their entire lifetimes being in those categories of people. But so, all right, well, who do you read and who do you trust and who do you follow? I think media credibility is a really important issue right now. And so I'm really glad that you joined me to talk with me, that you trusted me. I greatly appreciate that. But who are your sources? Who are you trusting? Who do you think's got credibility? Because you also are really good at tweeting like great nonprofit organizations that have important causes. What do you care about the most? We all have our favorites.
Well, the vulnerable, children, animals.
I heard you did not care about children.
Oh well, yeah, they're probably number 4. Of the 5 things I care about. The disabled are the vulnerable people. And it goes to the wearing a mask. to keep old people healthy, or someone with a comorbidity. It's being a member of a democracy, and that's what it means to be a responsible member of a democracy, is that we take care of each other. And it's a big world out there, so it's really hard to make an effect. Like, you sit there and go, I feel just hopeless. But I always say, stay local, help. Give money to the food bank here in LA. We have basically tent villages all over LA right now. People living on the street. I have never seen this before. And when you drive by, I don't want to blow my own horn, but I keep a bunch of fives in my car, and I'll hand out a five. You just give them a little help. It's really, really hard to see. It's real 100 degrees today, and there are people under the freeway to stay cool in a tent. I don't even know where they get the tents from. Some of them are just, canvas. I
heard you were doing so well. You were actually handing out air conditioners, and some guy in a tent's like, I appreciate it, but what am I going to plug this into? I live in a tent. I mean, I respect your intentions.
Figure it out. I can't do everything for you.
It's so heavy, Jane Lynch. Well, I think you identified and diagnosed the issue really eloquently, and it shouldn't be, I think, a noble quality about a person to care about the vulnerable and to understand that you belong to a community and to a tribe, and we have to help each other and support each other. And in this case, with the mask. So my final question to you is, how are you feeling in your mask? Do you still get recognized in your mask out in public?
I do. And,
what do the people say? I know who you are under that mask.
People say, hi, Jane. I'm 6 foot tall. I have a particular haircut I've had, this lesbian haircut I've had for the last 47 years.
Is that right? You've always had that haircut? Huh.
Yeah, I've always had this haircut. It's cute. It works.
I love it.
Thank you. I love your nice little bald head, though.
You didn't have to re-compliment me, but I appreciate that. It's low maintenance.
And I just kind of care. I'm a social person, so I, carry myself kind of.
Do you have a number of masks? How do you feel about the mask wearing? Is it burdensome to you?
I love it. And first of all, it doesn't show the lines I'm getting around my mouth, which is fantastic. I don't have to apply lipstick, but my partner is a seamstress. She does everything. She's an Aquarian. If you believe in astrology, you'll know what I mean. She can figure anything out because she's super duper forward thinking, and she sees potential where I go, I don't know what to do. But anyway, she makes masks.
That's awesome. Does she? Where can we get them? Can we Does she have a thing?
No, she doesn't make enough. And she's funny. She's a perfectionist. People have asked this before. It takes her about 8 days to make 8.
Oh my gosh! I would feel so bad then if I.
She's changing the backing, and she's deciding on a different thread. She's out driving around looking for the perfect thread. So no.
That's awesome. That's hilarious. I feel like my eyes and eyebrows are my strongest, most attractive feature. So I feel like my bald head isn't the best. It'd be nice to have a hairstyle, take a change. And then I feel like from my eyes down, basically what I'm saying is I'm a 6, but with a mask and a hat. Where would you put me if I cut mask and a hat, just the eyes and eyebrows?
You look very young. Oh, no. You know what I'm going to say? It's a little freaky. I don't think I would rather see your mouth and your beard and everything. I think it's the whole thing. Sorry. I look fantastic with the mask because you notice my baby blues, which you can't even see. I'm not lit well enough. You're lit very well.
I built a Shedio. It's got all the.
You've got some sunlight coming in too, I think.
I do. You're absolutely right. Nice call. All right, Jane, I'll let you go, but I could talk to you for another 50 hours, and I really appreciate you talking to me today. You're an inspired. What's that?
You think I'll get canceled?
I don't think you said anything that was remotely. I think the most controversial thing you might have said, actually, and it's not at all, is talking about Joe Rogan. I don't. Right. I don't think there's anything else that in any way. I thought it was educational. I think that the way that you've lived your life and the choices that you've made and the way that you treat people is far more for you and anybody, but especially for you, who you are. The people who know you, the people who've worked with you, know your reputation. And it's the way that we look at one comment here, one tweet there, one stupid opinion. It's not healthy for us. And I think that you have a really healthy outlook on that. And you're fasting now, so everything.
I'm starving.
Coming together. Are you done with that?
No, I'm done with it, but I order the food from them, which is still only about 2,000 calories. And so I'm kind of hungry all the time.
Yeah. What? Yeah. I don't know. That's why I can't do it. But I appreciate you telling me about it. We learned a lot, and a lot that people can take away. So thank you so much, Jane Lynch. Great to talk to you.
Great, Pete. Thank you.
Well, how about that? Jane motherfucking Lynch. Getting the big names now, huh? Aaron Brockovich coming up this week. David Allen Greer, I think, as well. And some of your other regular favorites. New guests all the time. And I depend on you. So many guests that you refer me to get booked on the show. So let me know who you'd like to hear. People do it all the time, and those guests get booked all the time. Be a paid subscriber. Be a producer of this independent media adventure extravaganza. Everybody, go to the paid subscription link in the show notes or patreon.com/Pete Dominic and sign up for as little as $5. And that way you can be a part of the stand-up community and join us in the Hangouts. And we're doing one little happy hour Thursday night, tomorrow night, 8 East. I hope to see you there. And looking forward to that. What else can I tell you here at the end of the show? I think that's it. I think that's all. I think that's all I've got for you. Let me know how you're doing. I hope you're hanging in there. Crazy shit out there every day. Find your center. Stay in the moment. You are not alone. Reach out to me anytime you want. I love you. I appreciate you. We'll get through this together, one way or another. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for listening today.